Jules, not just the Champions League draw today, the Europa League draw today. I kind of sense maybe a little bit of a weird parallel where one side of the draw seems on paper, by pedigree, a little bit stronger than the other side. And I also think maybe for Jose Mourinho, you're kind of uncorking champagne right now.
You are in a way, because you've avoided Manchester United, of course, you've avoided Juventus, and you know that you will face, if you beat Feyenoord in your quarterfinal, you will face the winner of Bayern Leverkusen against Union Saint-Gilloise in your semi. So you've avoided up to the final, certainly the other two big teams and big clubs that you could have had in the draw. So yeah, of course you're happy. This is a rematch, of course, of the last season's final in the Europa Conference League between Feyenoord and Roma. But I don't think this is an easy draw for Feyenoord. I don't think it's an easy draw for Roma, sorry, because Feyenoord have been really good this season in the league, of course, where they're the leaders, but also, as we saw against Shakhtar last night, scoring 7 against them. It's a young team with a lot of energy, intensity, great pressing, great counter-pressing. So it'd be a tough task for Roma.
Yeah, definitely. I think we'll start by looking at that game and annoying the Manchester United fans who dropped in to see what we might have had to say about their draw. But we got to start with Jose Mourinho, because the Mourinho fans are far more aggressive on social media. I agree with it. It's definitely a contrast of styles game here, very much so, between Feyenoord and Roma, as it was last year. I think we need to remember what condition are these teams going to be in a month's time. I mean, Feyenoord could be in the midst of a serious race to win the Eredivisie. Roma could be potentially out of the top 4 race in Serie A. Tammy Abraham could be firing in all cylinders, which maybe he hasn't been so far for Roma. I think on paper, Roma would have to be favorites because of Mourinho's experience, because they beat Feyenoord last year and so on. They have the Paulo Dybala factor as well. But yeah, I think this is really going to be a really interesting contrast in styles. And I think Roma need to really prepare well for this game.
Completely. I agree with you completely.
Now, the winner of that, as we mentioned, is going to face the winner of Bayern Leverkusen and Union Saint-Gilloise. What a year it is for the Brighton family. Can we say that? Can we say that? You've got Brighton gunning out in an age of multi-club ownership. This is one MCO which doesn't necessarily get the same level of attention.
Yeah.
But obviously, Union doing so well last year, following it up this year, certainly in the Europa League. And Brighton, of course, challenging maybe even for the Champions League if they win their games in hand in the Premier League. Again, still on paper, we're conditioned to say Bayer Leverkusen are favorites, but Union, from what I've seen, and I've seen more of Bayer Leverkusen, obviously, an awkward team to play against.
Completely, and we saw that against Union Berlin in the last 16, and a Union Berlin team that is much better position in the Bundesliga, for example, and you could say has been better this season domestically than Bayer Leverkusen, for example. And Union Saint-Gilloise is a team that counter really well, and they've got Boniface up front, who's a wonderful striker who very soon is going to play for a much better club, for example. They've got hardworking midfielders, they've got good runners, they've got this incredible team spirit. They're playing a small stadium just outside of Brussels. It's an incredible story, and I think the momentum from last season, you mentioned, where they almost won the league and qualified for the first time in 60 years for Europe, is still carrying them on now. It's an incredible fairy tale that they don't want to end. And of course, Bayern, Xabi Alonso will be the favorite. We saw Moussa Diaby be in great form in their win against Ferencváros last night. They've got a lot of potential, a lot of talent, pretty much everywhere. Defensively, in midfield, up front too, some really promising young players like Hozlek or Adli, all those kind of guys. But you just can't count out Saint-Gilloise because they are so surprising.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with you that qualitatively Leverkusen have more weapons. Xabi Alonso has sorted things out after, can we say, a slightly bumpy start, taking over in mid-season. Looking at the other half of the draw, let's start with Juventus against Sporting Lisbon, because obviously Sporting Lisbon knocking out Arsenal, anointed by Pep Guardiola as one of the two best footballing sides in Europe. Now, obviously, it comes on penalties. It came with a wonder goal from the halfway line. But we've said it before, sometimes victories like that, where you can go away to the Emirates, not be intimidated, and prove to be mentally tougher in the shootout, that can be worth even more in terms of building confidence against the Juve side that have so many question marks right now, starting with whether the 15 points penalty is returned to them. Obviously, we have no idea if Paul Pogba is going to show up a month from now or not, if he's injured or fit. I think this is really, really close, and I think this is going to be really awkward for Juve.
Yeah, I think it's a tough draw. Really, you can make Juve favorite because of the pedigree, as you were mentioning earlier at the start of the show. Of course, you can, but you're right. It's a tricky tie, and also if you're Sporting, which was the same against Arsenal, you've got nothing to lose. If you get knocked out by Juventus, you could say, well, yeah, they're bigger, they're better than us. They've got Vlahovic, they've got Chiesa, all that kind of stuff. It works. It's okay. It's fine. So they will even go there without any pressure. Second leg, obviously in Lisbon, it's a team that is awkward to play against because their back five is well organized. And Coates, for example, was missing for that second leg against Arsenal. They're excellent on set pieces, and to be fair, Juve are pretty good, and they've got pretty good headers of the ball as well. But they have technical ability with Pedro Goncalves, and you mentioned that incredible goal at the Emirates. Edwards as well. They've got good youngsters that can come in, and Ruben Amorim is a very clever, bright coach. So it would be, again, fascinating. We mentioned the contrast in styles between Feyenoord and Roma. There's a contrast in style in a way as well between Sporting and Juventus, between Allegri and Amorim. So it's, again, the narratives in this tie are great.
No question, Ruben Amorim, I think one of the highest touted younger managers in Europe, up against the Juve side where you don't know what you're going to get because, Vlahovic is another level to go to. Di Maria, is he fit? He's going to be there. Chiesa finding his fitness again. If all the big guns are there, I think you have to lean quite decisively. But that is a big question mark. Also, big question mark is, will they get their 15 points back? And we may not have the answer by the time they play. If they get the 15 points back, they may feel that domestically in Serie A, okay, we got this. We will finish top four. If they don't, then it may come down to needing to prioritize. Finally, Manchester United against Sevilla. Now, obviously, you talk about Sevilla in the Europa League, and you think, okay, this is pretty much automatic, right? But it's not automatic because it's Jorge Sampaoli. You don't know what you're going to get. Sevilla obviously got a big win at the weekend, but still, this is a team that really needs to worry about not getting relegated. It could take one or two bad games to get sucked back into it. They're having an atrocious season on the domestic front. Up against a United side that I think at this stage, you got the FA Cup. You've got, I know obviously there's a 7-0 and then the draw after that. But they are going to finish top four, or at least by the time they get here, they know they'll finish top four. And so they can really devote all their energy to this clash against Sevilla. Yeah,
I don't even think they need all their energy, Gab. I think this is a tie where they're hugely favourite. It's back-to-back trips to Sevilla, of course, because they knocked out Betis in the last 16. So at least the fans will know their bearings in the city. It's a different stadium. Don't go to the green and white stadium. Go to the red and white stadium. But it's funny that you play back-to-back Sevilla teams, of course. This, as you said rightly, Sevilla is struggling. Sampaoli is struggling himself. It's a team that doesn't defend well, doesn't score enough. Either they still have decent players, of course, but not at the level of where United are right now. So if it's in a month time, United are still playing that well, and Rashford is in that kind of form, and so is Bruno, and Casemiro will only have the Europa League to play anyway because you got that 4-game suspension coming up. I think United, of course, even with the second leg away from home, looking really good. It's a good draw for them. Of course, they will have to play the winner of Juventus against the Juventus game in the semi-final if they go past Sevilla. So potentially a huge tie in the semi-final. But for now, I think United have to be happy with the draw.
No, I definitely think too. I think if you're United, I would assume they were the bookies' favorites beforehand. what you wanted to avoid, I think, actually, is maybe something like Roma, where Mourinho starts talking, he gets into people's heads and whatever else, and it affects you. But no, I think this is really good. My only downside is we're gonna have to wait another 3 weeks or something, 3.5 weeks.
4 weeks. And we said we could have a Champions League final between City and Napoli, for example, who have never won it. And for the purists, this is two of the best footballing teams. We could have a Europa League final of United against Roma. Jose Mourinho against United. Respect.
You imagine that the whole world would be off to, is it Budapest, the final?
Budapest,
that'd be awesome. All right, book me in for that one. You and I will be going if it is United against
100%.
in the final. Yeah. Sorry, Mark Ogden. You're going to have, this is one final you're going to miss out on.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.